40% Merlot, 40%
Oh,
Malbec,
it's
and 20%
tastes
Cab
good.
Sauv.
Tastes good for you.
Welcome to the Wine Enthusiast Podcast, the world in your glass.
Jameson Fink, Senior Digital Editor. What's it like to be a sommelier in a bustling restaurant in New York City's West Village neighborhood? I decided to spend the day visiting a sommelier at a restaurant there and find out if it's all tasting wine, sniffing and swirling, or if there's a lot more to it and a lot more unglamorous things that you wouldn't expect to be part of a job working at a really well-known, prestigious restaurant in New York. I'm sitting here with...
My name is Victoria James. We are here at Piora restaurant in the West Village, and I am now the corporate beverage director.
It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. This place is going to be bustling soon, but I'm wondering, Victoria, what do you do now? It's 2 o'clock. You're getting ready for a Friday dinner service. What are things that you as a sommelier are doing and thinking about right now?
Yeah, so right now it's a little bit of crunch time. So I came in this morning around 9 a.m. and did sort of the basic inventory, crunching margins, seeing what I need to order for next week. In addition to that, we're opening up a new restaurant. So I was interviewing a couple of people and prepping for this afternoon in terms of the staff coming in. We have wine tasting with some winemakers that are visiting, and also preparing for this evening's service. So that means stocking wine, making sure that guests who have called ahead for specific requests are accommodated, and the list goes on.
I feel like such a jerk. I just got here at 2, and I assumed you arrived when I did. You've been here since 9 a.m., so on a Friday night, how long will you be here normally?
Well, tonight especially is pretty busy. Therefore, I'll probably be here until 1 a.m.
Wow, that is an incredibly long day. That's not even a day. That's like a day, an afternoon, and an evening.
I know. It seems that I've been getting a lot less sleep as this job has progressed, but I don't mind. It goes by very quickly.
So tell me more about some of the specifics of what you're doing when you're here in the morning as far as inventory. What are some, or just all of the tasks? I think as a lot of us might think, oh, you're a sommelier, you're just, coming in and you're helping people with wine and then you come out. But it's really, there's a lot of sort of the non-glamorous side of it, the business side of it. I want you to talk about a little more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the nitty-gritty underbelly of the sommelier's role, especially if they're buying wine and they're in a purchasing position, does not stop on the floor of the restaurant. So in the morning, I come in and the first thing I do is check the wine cellar, make sure everything looks as it should. And in addition to that, I do a lot of stocking. So for example, today we got in 10 cases of wine. So bringing those all down to the cellar, lots of manual labor. It's good you don't need a gym membership. And unpacking those boxes, making sure they're accounted for, making sure the people that sent them get paid. And then in addition to that, you have to categorize them on the list. You have to price them. You have to put them in your own inventory. And then once you're done physically putting them away, you look again at your inventory and what holes there might be, and projecting sales for the following week, and placing more orders.
Yeah, so it's really, I think that's a lot of people when you think about, I'd like to be a sommelier, and I'll write a wine list and I'll help people with wine, but really there's a lot of that service and business side to it. Do you think that's something that people getting into the business kind of underestimate? Definitely.
I was not fortunate to graduate with a degree in business, so when I first got into this industry, I thought it was very glamorous and you could just travel and sell wine and taste wine, and that sounded pretty great. And luckily, I also fell in love with the business side of things, and I love spreadsheets and crunching numbers and being cost efficient. So I was fortunate in that respect, but I think a lot of people usually are scared by the numbers, and that's not good.
Yeah, but I will say that there is, if anyone's concerned, there is travel and there is wine dinners and wine tasting. It's not just all spreadsheets. Being a sommelier, more than just spreadsheets.
That should be the motto. More than just spreadsheets, but there are a lot of spreadsheets.
Good evening. How is everybody today?
Great.
Great. Chef, would you like to take us through the night, please?
Sure. All right.
Hi, my name is Christopher Cipollone. I'm the executive chef here at Piora.
I talked to the head chef to understand the importance of family meal and what you might have if you're working at a restaurant to eat right before the restaurant opens. Chris, can you tell me what family meal is for people who don't know what it is?
So family meal is the staff meal that we all enjoy before service. It's one of the most important kind of, as far as nourishment, and then a little bit of a bonding experience for the staff before service.
So are there certain things that you like to cook for family meal that maybe, it's just you wouldn't do for the restaurant for an individual dish? Are there certain favorite things that you like to make or the staff enjoys?
Oh, well, it's obviously totally different food than what we do for the restaurant. But fun, filling, nutritious. We try to balance out the healthy and unhealthy kind of food. Like, for instance, today it's fried chicken, but next to kale salad. Things like that. Just fun, easy stuff that people like to enjoy and eat quick and move on.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about like the bonding experience and how important that is right before the doors open to sit down and share a meal.
It's actually really important. I would like it to be more prevalent that we would actually all sit down together. The kitchen kind of stands at their station and eats and keeps going, but we do take that 5 to 10 minutes to kind of eat while we're standing there and do a little bit of bonding and crack a smile or two before service.
All right, so let's head down to the kitchen and find out how the progress of family meal is going. So this is the fried chicken for tonight.
This is the fried chicken for tonight. It's simply breaded. It's chicken fingers. People like that. Our staff likes it when it's chicken finger day. It's a reason to be celebrated.
And balanced with the kale salad.
It's
like a yin and yang.
Exactly.
So wine notes for tonight, we are a bit low.
I also talked to a sales manager for a very well-known wine importer who has 2 winemaking guests from France with him to get an idea of what it's like to walk into a restaurant and try and taste wine for a staff and hopefully sell some wine and get some placements.
My name is Lyle Railsback. I work for Kermit Lynch, and I do national sales. I'm based in New York.
Lyle, so when you're visiting a restaurant and you have winemakers with you, what is the goal as far as what do you want a staff to understand about the people behind the wines in the company and just a general sense besides just tasting the wines?
I think that a story really helps people sell wine. The wines are delicious and that's one part of it, but if the servers or the sommeliers have something that they can pass on to their guests to make it more of an exciting experience, that's our goal. So these guys have lots of great stories, and their parents before them have good stories, and we've got a lot of history with Kermit and these guys. So, yeah, I guess just something that's an interesting hook.
So I'm Lionel Faury from Domaine Faury winery located on the northern Rhone Valley. We are here is to share some story about our winery, our philosophy of making the wine, and helps them to understand the family history and how we make the wines. It also help them to sell the wine and to have this transmission of the story to their customers.
Hello, I'm Ghislaine Dupeuple from Beaujolais du Peuple. My family is a family winemaker since 1512, and our vineyard is located in the south of Beaujolais, in the famous area called Pierre Doré, Golden Stone. And we produce white, rosé, and red Beaujolais. We have some different soil, and the philosophy of the vineyard is to have some just pleasure wine, just to taste, to open the bottle, to serve a glass and finish the bottle and say, oh, just finish, we want a second bottle. I want to explain our philosophy, how we work in the vineyard, how we produce the wine, how we make the vinification. I think if the customer knows how we want to work, he can understand more the philosophy of the wine that we produce. And for me, it's really interesting to speak with this customer, to to know if my philosophy is agree with her mind or not, and to understand if I produce a new cuvée, I can have the choice to know they are agree with me or not, and if I must continue or not. I think the story of the family is more than 500 years old, and if we want to continue, we must to know what thinks the customer. So that's why.
So we just tasted a bunch of really cool wines from Beaujolais and the Rhone. And Victoria, when you have winemakers here pouring wines, I mean, obviously you're thinking about getting new wines possibly for the restaurant or just familiarizing yourself and the staff. But what's the goal for you, for the staff and yourself when you have winemakers here in a tasting like that?
So for a tasting like that, the main goal this time was to sort of make sure the staff is exposed to different wines and styles and techniques and to learn a bit. But in addition to that, we are tasting the wines to see if they'll fit with our program and the list, and learning a bit about the history of the estates and how they make the wines so that you can translate that to the guests. On that note, too, I wanted to show you guys some stones I brought back from the La Croix vineyard of the Telegraph on the elevated plateau. These are called galette rouges. So just
I also want to talk about, so we're sitting here in this lovely restaurant, and but I want to talk about something else that you're interested, a passion of yours is Amaro. And can you talk about you're making an Amaro? It'll be released shortly, or what is the status of that? Tell me more about that project.
Yeah, so it's very exciting. It's the first ever Amaro that's been made from completely foraged ingredients, and I got into foraging at a previous restaurant called Maria on Central Park South. We worked with the forager there, and I thought it was just really cool, and so followed him around and then trailed under a bunch of different foragers. And then after a while, I realized I had all of this extra material, and there's only so many summer salads you can eat before you get sick of them. And so I started just making tinctures and small batch Amaros in my kitchen in Inwood. And then I gave them away as Christmas gifts. And a few people, especially a friend of mine, really encouraged me to kind of go commercial with it. So I explored my options and settled on Green Hook Ginsmiths and Stephen D'Angelo in Greenpoint. He's been wonderful. So what I do essentially is in the spring, go foraging, ask friends to help because it's a lot of picking, and then macerate those ingredients in a neutral grain New York spirit, so it's all local. And then by the end of the summer, it's ready to go into barrel, and then it's sweetened and diluted. It's based on plants in the aster family, so it's called Aster Amaro. And hopefully it'll be out soon. Right now there's a little bit of snafus with the TTB and SLA in terms of recipe approval. You kind of submit all of these obscure things they've never heard of, and they say, wait, I don't know what that is. And I say, don't worry, it's completely edible. And so you have to submit more and more explanations. So, but it all looks good, and it should be out in a few months' time.
Awesome. And when you talk about foraging, and I hear your super long day, how do you working a job like this that requires long hours, you're on your feet, you're lifting cases up and down stairs, it's sort of like, I'm sure it's like mentally and physically taxing, just being alert and looking at spreadsheets, helping customers. How do you find time to do things like forage, and how do you manage to have that kind of work-life balance in a job that demands so much of your time?
That's a good question. I'm still figuring it out to a certain extent, but luckily foraging for me started as just a pastime and a way to really relax. You get to escape into the woods, the opposite of Manhattan, and just kind of go on a treasure hunt. So it's really a way for me to relax, and then it just so happened that I made a product from it, and I'm starting to get a little busier too. I also wrote a book that's coming out soon, so I'm learning more and more every day how to balance everything.
All right, you have to plug your book. Tell me about it.
Okay. It is a book on rosé wine, and it will be out officially on May 2nd. And we haven't really talked much about it yet, so this is kind of the first press, I suppose, in some way. So there's that. But yeah, it'll be wonderful. It's coinciding with the opening of the new restaurant as well. So we have a lot of things to celebrate.
What is so it's February, and it's probably like yesterday we had like almost a foot of snow, and today it's kind of gloppy and cold, although sunny outside. So it's February. Are people drinking rosé in February?
Absolutely. I make sure we have rosé at the restaurant all year long. And one of the things I cover in the book, in addition to the history of rosé, regions, producers, recipes, and such, is stressing the importance of drinking rosé all year long. It is a category just like white and red and even orange wine now. And if orange wine can find a place on the table in many Brooklyn restaurants, I think rosé wine can too.
What are some of the things on the menu right now that, like, if I ordered, you'd be like, oh, you should really have a glass of rosé?
Well, right now, our chef, Chris Cipollone, is incredibly talented. And one of the things he does very well is pasta. And also, a twist on that is he does these Korean dumplings, so kind of pasta if you think about it, called mandu. And one we have on the menu, seared halibut mandu, so a dumpling with halibut and all these Mediterranean flavors. It just goes so well with rosé. You literally have a bite and you have a sip of rosé, and it's like you're in Provence, but I guess with a Korean twist. It's delicious.
And you mentioned Provence, and I think for a lot of people that's sort of like the touchstone of rosé romantically, and like the vision of it, that kind of like pale colored rosé. But I also want to talk about, like, sometimes I have I only want like a lighter colored rosé. I look at a dark one, I think it's going to be heavy or sweet or just not as refreshing. Are you seeing people sort of experimenting with the whole spectrum of rosé, and do you have to kind of explain, like, look, not all rosés are just like super pale?
Yeah, definitely. Last week we were pouring with our tasting menu here. We do a la carte, but we also have a tasting menu, which is great. I was pouring a heavier, richer style of rosé, a Cerasuolo from Italy, and a lot of people didn't actually even notice that it was rosé. They thought it was actually a light red, like a Pinot Noir Trousseau, and once they tasted it and realized it was chilled as a rosé would be, they sort of it changed their perspective quite a bit. And I think that people are open to many different styles of rosé. They might just not know it yet.
And what's the name of the new restaurant, and where is it going to be located? Do you know yet?
Yes. So the new restaurant, they started construction about a month ago. It'll be on Broadway and 21st Street, so just south of the Flatiron. Much larger restaurant. It'll be Korean barbecue, really fun, cooking on the tables. But, you can also have magnums of Beaujolais and champagne and soju. So that's a really fun program to build now, and we're, looking for somms for that place and bartenders, and that's been a fun journey. And the new restaurant will be called Coat. So Piora in Korean means to blossom, and Coat means flower.
So it's a new restaurant. It's totally being built from scratch. How do you start building a wine list or a beverage program for that? Like when there's like no space, and how do you even like wrap your head around that, or what's the first step?
Yeah, so the first step was I talked to the architects and the designers to see what they were envisioning in terms of space for the wine cellar, and then with those limited measurements. I don't know if you're too familiar with Manhattan wine cellars, but they're usually not very generous in terms of size. Trying to figure out a way to squeeze as many wine racks in there as possible. So we worked with a designer as well to do that. And once you get a final or an estimate of bottle count, then you work on consolidating that with the budget and filling in wine that you think would be appropriate for the cuisine, the place, the price point, the guests, and then also throwing in a few of your favorites.
So it's like 15 minutes until opening, Victoria. What is like, it's the final push before you open. What are you doing right now?
Just last minute stocking of wines, going over some VIP or PPX notes, so important guests, making sure menus are prepared for tasting menus and wine pairings, and just kind of jumping in there, tasting some wine and getting ready for guests.
Awesome. Okay, so what I want to do is give you a call tomorrow, and I want to hear about how tonight went.
Awesome. Yeah, what time?
Not early.
Okay, all right. Well, I will be up at 8, so call me anytime after that.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey, Jameson, how are you?
Good. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you as well.
Although you've been up for a while.
Yeah, I just got to Piora about 45 minutes ago and settling in, answering some emails.
So how did service go last night? Did anything particularly noteworthy happen?
Yeah, I mean, every night here is just a lot of fun. Last night was crazy busy. We had some awesome guests. A lot of people participated in our half bottle program, so they chose some bottles off the list to do by the half bottle, like older Cote Rôtie and white Burgundy, some really, really cool stuff. And then I was able to pour that for tasting menus as well. It was a busy night. I was out by 12:30, 1 a.m., and there was even a guest who had asked me to source their birth year of wine for them for a special occasion, and they absolutely loved it. It was a 1990 Prunotto Barolo from Bussia.
Excellent.
And it was really special. It was a fun night.
So what do you like normally? Maybe this wasn't last night, but what's the kind of like beverage you crave when you're finally done and maybe you walk out the door? What are you in the mood for drinking?
Well, usually after tasting, upwards of 100 wines during service and throughout the day, I really kind of just want a Negroni or a cold beer.
Nice.
Yeah.
And finally, just one last question. From the time I spent with you yesterday and you telling me about what you do and me getting to witness that firsthand, what do you want people to know about your job and your profession that maybe doesn't get enough, publicity or notoriety?
Well, I think that the role of the sommelier or the wine director is often misunderstood, and that it's all glamour and parties and wine and traveling, and I think that people don't know all the hard work and planning and long hours on your feet and running around that really go into it. But the most important thing that people should know is sommeliers like people and they like hospitality, or at least they should. So we're doing this because we love this, and it's not just a job.
Awesome. Okay, and one more thing. It's not even a question, but if people want to visit you and order some great wine and have some food, what's the website for the restaurant?
Yeah, the website is PioraNYC.com, and they can always visit me usually Tuesday through Saturday there, or at our new restaurant opening soon.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for letting me hang out with you yesterday and to catch up on the phone today, Victoria. Great to speak with you.
It was such a pleasure, Jameson. Take care.
This podcast is produced by Large Media, LARJ Media. Wine Enthusiast is made possible by grapes, sunshine, and wine, and by the hard-working editors who bring you news and information on your favorite beverage every day. If you like what we're doing, share our podcast with your friends and give us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. For more fun wine information, follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Wine Enthusiast.